He slid the divorce papers across the table like he was returning something broken. No envelope, no conversation, just papers and a pen. He said, "Sign it, Sophia. Let's not make this harder than it is." I looked at him, at the man I had cooked for, cried with, believed in, moved cities for, put my own career on hold for, and I picked up the pen. My hand was shaking, but my eyes were not. My name is Sophia, and if you are watching this, if you have ever been handed papers that said you were no longer wanted, stay with me because what happened next changed everything. We met when I was 24. He was charming, ambitious, the kind of man who filled every room he walked into. I was a junior financial analyst at a mid-sized firm, smart, focused, quietly building something. He said I was the most impressive woman he had ever met, so I believed him. We married at 27, small ceremony, big promises. I wore my mother's earrings and cried at the altar because I thought that was what happiness felt like. For the first 2 years it was good, not perfect, but good, the kind of good you work at and tell yourself is enough. Then his startup took off and I became background noise. I left my job at his request. He said, "We don't need 2 incomes, I need a partner at home, not a competitor." I told myself that was love talking. I managed the household, supported his vision, attended his dinners, smiled at his investors, remembered every name, every preference, every anniversary of every person who mattered to his career. I became invisible so that he could become visible, and for 5 years I told myself that was partnership. I found out on a Tuesday, not dramatically, not from a stranger, from his phone, which he left unlocked on the kitchen counter while he was in the shower. A message, a name I recognized, his business partner's wife. I read it once. I put the phone down exactly where I found it. I went to the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the wall for 11 minutes. I know it was 11 minutes because I watched the clock. Then I got up, made his coffee, and said nothing. I needed to think, and I had learned long ago that the most dangerous thing a woman can do is react before she is ready. I spent 3 weeks gathering myself, not evidence, myself. I called a lawyer quietly. I opened a personal account he didn't know about. I updated my resume for the first time in 5 years. Then one evening at dinner, I slid my own envelope across the table. He opened it, his face changed, and I said, "I've already spoken to a lawyer. Everything is documented. This will be clean if you let it be clean." He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. Maybe he was. The day we signed, his lawyer sat beside him like armor. He wore a suit. He looked composed. He looked like a man who believed he was closing a chapter on something small. I wore a white blouse, no jewelry except my mother's earrings, the same ones I had worn at the altar. When the papers came to me, my hand shook, not from fear, from the weight of 5 years leaving my body all at once. I signed. He leaned over and said quietly, almost gently, "Sophia, you'll be fine, you're smart, but without my network, without this life, starting over at 32 is going to be harder than you think." I looked at him and said, "I know." And I meant something completely different than what he heard. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment on the east side of the city. Bare walls, a mattress on the floor, a second-hand desk by the window, and 5 years of financial knowledge that nobody could divorce me from. I had watched money move at the highest levels of his world. I had sat in boardrooms as the wife and absorbed everything while they looked past me. I knew patterns they hadn't noticed. I understood gaps in the market they were too comfortable to see. I started consulting, small clients first, startups that couldn't afford the firms my ex-husband used. I charged fairly. I delivered extraordinarily. Within 8 months, I had 12 clients and a waiting list. I slept 4 hours some nights. I ate cereal for dinner more times than I will admit. I called my mother every Sunday and told her I was fine even when I wasn't because I didn't want her to worry. And I was fine, not comfortable, not settled, but fine the way a fire is fine, burning exactly as it should. At month 14, I brought in my first major client, a regional bank looking to restructure their investment product line. The contract was $340,000. I sat in my car after signing and screamed just once. Then I drove home, made tea, and went back to work. By year 2, I had built a boutique financial consultancy with 4 employees. By year 3, 11 employees and an office with actual furniture. By year 4, I was approached by a private equity firm who had been watching our growth and wanted to invest. We negotiated for 6 weeks. The final deal was series of funding of $8.2 million. I called my mother that night. She said, "Sophia, are you safe?" I laughed for a long time and said, "Yes, Mama, I am very, very safe." By year 5, the firm had expanded to 3 cities, 61 employees, and a client portfolio that included names my ex-husband would have recognized immediately, names he had once used to make me feel small. The valuation at our Series B close was $52 million. I was in a breakfast meeting on a Thursday morning when my assistant sent a message saying there was a Michael Hargrove asking to schedule a call, says it's personal. Michael Hargrove. My ex-husband. I sat with that for a moment. Then I said, "Tell him my personal calendar is handled the same way as my business calendar. He's welcome to submit a meeting request. Standard rates apply." My assistant paused, then said, "Understood." The request came in an hour later. I didn't accept it for 4 days, not out of spite. I was genuinely busy. When we finally spoke video call, my office, him at what looked like a hotel room, the charming man who had filled every room looked smaller than I remembered. His startup had collapsed. The investors pulled out. His business partner, the husband of the woman from the unlocked phone, had sued him for mismanagement. He needed a consultant, someone who understood the specific market he was in, someone with my connections. He said, "Sophia, you are genuinely the best person I have ever seen in this space. I should have." And I said, "Michael, I charge $850 an hour. My assistant can send you the contract. Payment is due before we begin." Silence. Then he said, Yes, that's fair." I said, "I know." And I ended the call. People ask me if I felt victorious. Honestly, no. What I felt was clean, the way a room feels after you open all the windows on the first warm day of spring. I was not sitting in victory. I was sitting in clarity. The version of me that shook while signing those papers, she was not weak. She was releasing, making room for the office with real furniture, for the 61 people who brought their best work to a company I built from a mattress on the floor, for my mother, who I flew out to the new headquarters on opening day and watched walk through the glass doors with her hand over her mouth, not saying anything, for the woman in the white blouse who knew exactly what she meant when she said, "I know." If you are sitting somewhere right now in the middle of an ending that does not feel like a beginning, I need you to hear this. The papers they hand you do not define the story, you define the story. Every person who watched me sign thought they were watching a conclusion, they were watching an opening line. The divorce was not my lowest point, it was my starting gun. And if someone has ever handed you something meant to diminish you, a paper, a word, a look, a door closed in your face, pick up the pen, sign it, and then go build something so undeniable that when they come back, and they will come back, you are too busy to feel anything except grateful that they showed you exactly who they were before it was too late. I am Sophia. I signed the papers at 32. At 37, I signed a $52 million deal. Same pen. Different story. That if you like this story, please subscribe for your kindness.